Hi, this is Cheryl Gordon, and I am here to share with you week 7 of our series on hip and knee rehab. It's a beautiful day outside, so I thought I'd take advantage. It just kind of shows us that we can go anywhere with our practice. We don't have to be confined to a certain space or place. So today we're working on how the hips and knees are married to each other. Last week I did allude to the fact that many of the muscles that work our knee joint come and they cross over the hip joint. So what happens with the hip happens to the knee. What happens to the knee happens to the hip. So one of the things we want to really be aware of is the knee is generally a joint that's supposed to move like this: straight, closed, straight, closed. It's a hinge, kind of like the hinge on a door or a cupboard. But if the hip is restricted in any way, then it becomes very difficult for the knee to just work like that, because what we're asking it to do is the lower leg to move at a different place from the upper leg, and when it collapses there's some what's called torque. Sometimes it's an unusual relationship between the bones that creates wear and tear. This is what gives us knee arthritis, can cause tears in the connective tissue, and can cause all kinds of pain in our knees. So if we want to really work with truly getting our knees back into a fighting form, most of the time we have to deal with what's going on in the hip joint as well. I'm not a big fan of aggressive stretching of the hips. A lot of people come to my yoga classes and they want to do hip openers. Not a big fan. I think hips can be forced to go places that they're not meant to go according to your bone structure, and it's kind of a bit of an ego-driven practice. In the last video we worked a lot on hip strengthening. That's where I would probably focus more of my attention. And today we're going to just talk about how the hips and knees coordinate with each other. You'll need some sort of tie for your practice today. I'm using a TheraBand, but you can use an old housecoat belt or an old necktie, or if you have a yoga strap, that's fine too. I'm going to start reclining on my back. Again, this can be done in a bed if you can't transfer to the floor safely yet. But we did go over how to do that with the chair in a previous video. So I really hope you're doing these videos in order, because as you can see, we're getting more complicated, and I'm hoping your rehab is prepared for all these complicated movements. Otherwise, you'll set yourself back. Again, ego-driven practice, right? So let's come down onto our backs, knees bent, feet on the floor. Just taking a moment to settle here. As we've often discussed together, it's important to gather yourself all into one place. There's a lot of neuromuscular reprogramming that goes on when we're getting our hips and knees back to fighting form. And so you need a lot of energy and a lot of concentration for the brain to process all of this. So when you're ready, we're going to take the strap around the ball of one of our feet. We want to take the leg that's happier to move right now. So I'm going to start with the leg closest to the camera, but you start with the leg that is more ready to move today. Take the strap around the ball of the foot. Move your hands down the strap, the tie, whatever you're using, so that your shoulders are relaxed and your elbows are bent. There doesn't seem to be a lot of stress in your upper body. You're not quivering to try to hold your leg up. Make the leg do more of the work. So if I let go of the strap, my leg would stay in place. So you're making your leg do more of the work. Maybe your leg needs to be down at a bit more of an angle. That's fine. It doesn't have to be at a 90-degree angle. It's better to have some space in the hip joint. We're going to time our movement with breath, as we often do. Inhale, push the heel away, push the ball of the foot into the strap, and then exhale, fold the knee in towards your body. Inhale, pushing away. Notice how slow I'm moving. I'm really watching and feeling the movement of the knee. I want to move the knee as a hinge. So that means my toes and my kneecap are facing in the same line. For me, straight up to the sky today. Let's just take one more breath. Inhale, pushing into the strap, and then exhale, releasing. And it doesn't matter how close your knee comes into your body. That's not our focus. Our focus is, how is that knee joint working? How does it feel?
And of course, as with all of the work we're doing together, we want to make sure that our knee isn't painful or sore. Taking the strap around the ball of the second foot now. And again, make sure your elbows are bent, that your shoulders are relaxed, and that you're feeling pretty spacious in your hip joint. Inhale here. Exhale, fold the knee directly into the side of your chest, not out to the side of your body. So we're using the knee as a pure hinge. It only bends one way in this movement. And I'm going pretty slow. We've got lots of time to think about my inhale and my exhale, and to really feel how the knee is moving. Last breath, inhaling and exhaling. Good. Letting your feet rest on the floor. You can stretch your legs out if you like, although I find a lot of people that's a bit much. Okay. And let's do a little bit more work. Keep in mind what happens to your knees and your hips over the course of your movement journey has a lot to do with feet and ankles too. We're going to do a little bit now for ankle flexibility and foot flexibility. Every time you take a step, if the feet are stiff or in pain or don't transmit the information up to the body in the same way as they're meant to, the knees and hips are going to have to do extra work, which can add to wear and tear. So let's do a little bit for our lovely feet and ankles. Take the strap around the ball of the foot on that first leg again. Extend your leg. Bend your elbows, relax your shoulders. You know this drill. Know that the leg doesn't have to be super high. The leg can be away from your body a little bit. That's fine. Start by wiggling your toes. So the strap is around the ball of the foot, and you're getting some direct feedback when you move and separate and wiggle your toes. Look at all the bones that move in your feet. Isn't that interesting? Inhale, push the ball of the foot away from you, pointing your toes. And exhale, draw the toes down towards your shins in dorsiflexion for the ankle joint. Inhale, point. Exhale, flex. Do that one more time. Taking your time, keeping the knee straight if you can. Good. Now we're going to do movement from side to side. This is a bit of a different movement now. It's kind of like you're holding onto the reins of a horse and buggy, and you're going to steer from right to left. So pull down on this rein, and your foot faces outward. Pull down on the other rein, and your foot faces inward. This is called eversion and inversion. If you've ever injured your ankle, you'll feel it here. And I'm glad we're doing this because this might be just the key to get you into a more fluid gait again. Perfect. When you're ready, we can do one more thing with this strap. You can take it just into one hand now. So I'm working with my left leg right now, so I've got it in my left hand. If you're working with your right leg, you'd have it in your right hand. And we're going to take this thigh bone, and we're going to turn this thigh bone so it faces in and out, doing what's known as internal and external rotation for the hip joint. So turn the kneecap so it faces outward. This is external rotation. We're keeping the knee pretty straight, keeping the ankle in a light flexion. Now do the opposite. Turn the knee inwards so it's facing to the opposite end of the mat. And then let's inhale, roll it out. Exhale, roll it in. It's important to do this without pain. So you may have to do less range of motion. And we'll just do that 3 times and then rest our leg. You can stretch it out if you like, or keep it bent, whatever feels better for your body. I often find there's a lot of feedback after that pose. So I like to take a little time, a little break in between. Let's go to the other side. So we're setting up the same way as we started on the other side. Leg extended, arms relaxed. You don't have a death grip on the tie. And the tie is around the ball of your foot. So I'm going to wiggle my toes. This reminds me of how flexible my foot is. Try to separate your toes, do all kinds of different things with your toes. Good. And then we'll take and do some movement here, pushing the ball of the foot against the thigh, inhaling. Exhale, flex the ankle. Inhale and exhale. And one more time. Good. And then we'll drive our horse. So pulling down on this rein so the sole of the foot points this way, pulling down on the other rein so the sole of the foot heads out to that side. So it's like a seesaw going from side to side. My leg is straight away from me. My knee is straight. I'm just moving the ankle joint. Perfect. Now taking the tie in just the one hand, I'm going to do the internal external rotation again. Make sure that you've grounded your thigh bone. So sometimes I have to take a hand. Notice I had to switch my hands of the tie, but that's okay. Sometimes I'll take my hand and I'll kind of push my thigh bone away from me. This creates a little space in the hip socket, and then I can do the external and internal rotation a bit more easily. A good yoga therapist has a number of tricks like this. Good. And we're timing that with our breath. And then you can release the leg, stretch it out, or keep it bent, whatever works better. Like I say, I often find that it's much more helpful to have a little rest. I find that particular series, hand to big toe pose, very impactful. So pause the video and take some more rest if you like. When you're ready to move on, we'll roll over to our side and slowly press up from the floor. You can use a chair to transition back up to standing, or if you feel safe doing it another way, you can just come up to standing your way. I'm going to get rid of the blanket that I was using as a prop because I don't want to make sure that I don't trip. The other thing I might want to do is have a chair close by just for a little bit of balance. Let's come to mountain pose. After all of that work that we just did with the strap, you have a different relationship between your toes, ankles, knees, and hip joints. So you might be experiencing some different sensations as you come to stand. Anytime you feel fatigued or your pain levels increase, please take a break and sit in the chair and then restart the video when you're ready. Here's a final progression for today's video. We're going to come into a very slow march. This is a movement that you have to do all the time when you walk. But when we slow a movement down, we take it out of the automatic functions of the brain and we bring it into fresh territory. It's like relearning it. And in a way, that's what we're trying to do after injury or surgery, is we're trying to relearn the pattern so we don't aggravate pre-existing problems. So remember, you can have a chair beside you or come closer to the wall for your hand to be on the wall. I don't want balance to interfere with your ability to really concentrate. So the movement will be like this, just in mountain pose. We'll laterally shift the body a little bit so more weight comes into one leg. You're still staying upright, just a little bit of shift to one leg. And then slowly lift your heel, lift off the ball of the foot, push off the big toe, and lift the knee up, straight up. So everything's in line. The bumper bone, this is a protruding bone at the front of your pelvis, the knee and the ankle and the toes all in one line. And then we'll come back to mountain pose. Let's do this timed with breath. So we'll inhale in mountain pose. Exhale, lift the foot off slowly, pushing off the tip of the big toe, lifting the knee. Inhale, back to mountain pose. Exhale, lift the knee. And notice the knee isn't going out to the side, it's coming straight up, like I'm a marionette and someone's got a string lifting my knee straight up. So again, using something for balance so you're not distracted by that. I really just want to focus on slowing this movement down and really feeling what has to happen to lift one foot and then the other. Maybe your knee isn't lifting that high yet. That's okay. As long as you're moving in with integrity in that careful range of motion, we're relearning how to walk. We're relearning how to reduce the wear and tear on our joints. After you've lifted your knees an equal number of times, come back to mountain pose. take some rest, let that learning really sink in. Thank you so much. I hope you have lots of time to repeat this video this week. I'll be back next week with more.